Today, we grade the 2024 starting pitchers and catchers, see what's happening around the NL Central, and recap the Arizona Fall League. You're listening to the Bucco Bantr podcast, brought to you by the Just Baseball Media Network. Cue the music.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates. Order steak by the plate, sending case after case. Run my race at my pace, clear the grass of the snake.
Adam, welcome back. Another episode after, a fun week in Newcastle, if you will. And, we're not going to touch on the events this week. This is not a political podcast, but I will say one thing this is my address to the State of the Union. Podcasters are up right now. I'm putting that out there. So that's my official comment.
All right.
From Bucco Banner.
We had a good week this week. All things considered with the Chuck Tanner Day, right? It was a great time. Shout out Terry Rogers. Shout out Steve Blass, Greg Brown, Jack Sorensic, everybody else that made that day possible. Go listen to that episode. You can hear a little bit of background noise. Listen, it's our first time recording in person. We're still working out the logistics. Shout out Renegades of the Rotunda for throwing in a mixer at the last minute because we are technologically at a disadvantage. Stupid's probably the right word. That's the one I was looking for, but we were trying to plug multiple mics into one laptop and we're like, why isn't it working? I felt like I was like, have you ever seen Zoolander? Where he's like trying to find the files in the laptop and he's like trying to break it open. That's how I felt trying to get that done. Because you came over to my place multiple times and we're like, we just can't figure it out.
We were definitely testing it out. The backup plan was just to do mini mic around the event, which would have worked fine too, I guess. But the lighting in there was not great, but we made the best of it. And I will say this. I didn't realize, and I've been listening to Steve Blass on TV for years now. I didn't realize that Steve Blass was that funny. I'm just going to
he's
put
hilarious.
that out there. He's absolutely hilarious. So he was a character. He was really fun and very, very generous with his time. But yeah, it was a really good time, man. I enjoyed that for sure.
Hearing all the Chuck Tanner stories was incredible because, I know that you have proximity to Chuck Tanner and Newcastle and everything that he meant to that city, but just being a Pittsburgher and then being away and obviously not being born in that time period and seeing that World Series, it was nice to see people reflect back on times that were better for the Pittsburgh Pirates when they were winning and they had all these different personalities and nicknames. And it just kind of shows what a manager can mean to a ball club. And I feel like I'm just kind of beating a dead horse here, right? Because I've been bringing this up over and over and over again. But
I know exactly
matters,
where you're going.
man. Coaching matters. They need a hitting coach. Shelton's probably in the hot. He is in the hot seat. GMBC's in the hot seat. You need guys that are going to be able to get a collective together and believe in one thing throughout 162 plus. Okay, it's enough with just 162. We got to 162 plus. You have to be in it.
Yeah, I think even more so today, it's really important with how involved the analytics in front office is involved in the everyday role of a manager. Like just even a decade ago, managers were fully in charge, and they will deny this until they're blue in the face, but we know that a lot of the lineups come from the front office, especially with a lot of these small market teams. So being a culture builder is even more important nowadays than it has been maybe even a decade ago. So hearing the stories about Chuck Tanner, it was clear that the guy was he had all the qualities of a successful manager. And it was really, really fun to hear those stories.
Yeah. Heard a lot of just general Pirate stories throughout the day. So that was really cool. And then more Pirates news coming out this week on Wednesday. The Clemente documentary is premiering in Pittsburgh. It would be really cool to see the work that they put into the Clemente documentary. That's going to be something special just between the personalities they got to be the talking heads. I know Francisco Lindor, Michael Keaton, I think does oh my God, what's the name I'm looking for? Catcher for the Cardinals.
Yadier Molina.
Yadier Molina. Oh my! I had
Yeah.
my brain just kept saying Yasmani Grandal over and over and over
Or
again.
Benji or yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be really cool to see that. Maybe we'll have the opportunity to go see that in person. Who knows?
We're gonna try.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
I think the premiere is at the August Wilson downtown.
It is.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
That's really close to both of us. It's actually like midway point for both of us. So we'll see.
So still a lot of pirate centric news going on outside of negative happenings. You got Chuck Tanner Day, the premiere of the Roberto Clemente documentary, free agency is about to hit. There's already some moves around the Central, which we're going to break out a brand new segment this. But before we get into that, we haven't talked about it yet. Jared Triolo got his first Gold Glove. Congratulations to him. Well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big Triolo guy, and we nominated him the defensive player, Bucco Banner Defensive Player of the Year. Wasn't
arguably more important.
Yeah, very, very much so. I'm sure he's going to be much more looking forward to that plaque than the Gold Glove that he's receiving. But it was, it was an easy decision for us. I mean, Key missed a lot of time this year and maybe regressed a little bit with his injuries defensively. And then we didn't really have defensively. We were bottom of the barrel this year in the league. So Triolo was a bright spot for us because he could play multiple positions, but he could play multiple positions very well. And I'm really excited to see the growth that he makes this offseason, especially with the bat, because if that bat comes around, Jared Triolo is a special player.
Yeah. The defense going into next year doesn't seem to be the problem.
No.
Right now, at least in the infield, right? You have multiple Gold Glove guys. I mean, I know we're talking about moving IKF, but that's a Gold Glove guy. Key Brian Hayes, Gold Glove guy. Jared Triolo, Gold Glover. A lot goes into that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of value in that. I remember halfway through the year when we're trying to give out a Key Brian Hayes signed baseball and people were kind of just like, get that out of my face. A Gold Glove is very, very hard to get.
Yeah.
Defense
you're the best at your position.
Yeah.
Like
defense, especially third base, is one of the hardest things to do, period.
Yeah.
And for Jared to be able to do it all over the field is something else. But Scott, I want to play a little game with you real quick.
Okay.
It's going to be called Hall of Famer or not Hall of Famer. Okay. I'm going to read you some stats and you're going to tell me if that person belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Or if they do not. All right.
Bring it.
Career 40.1 WAR player.
Okay.
2,712 hits, 339 home runs, 290 career batting average, 7-time All-Star, home run derby champion, World Series champion, MVP, and 3 consecutive Gold Gloves. Scott, does this person belong in the Hall of Fame or do they not?
So first off, usually the baseline is 50 to 60 WAR to get in the Hall of Fame. So the 40.1 WAR might be a little bit underwhelming, but almost 3,000 hits. You said 330 some home runs,
339,
3 Gold Gloves, a 7-time All-Star. Like a lot of those stats overcome the career WAR number. I would say yes. I would elect him. He would have my vote to go in the Hall of Fame.
Those numbers belong to Dave Parker,
the Cobra baby,
who just got a nomination for the Hall of Fame this week. He is going to be a finalist. Scott, how does that work? Because that's not the normal Hall of Fame voting.
Yeah. So from my understanding, and I could be completely wrong, so just putting that out there. From my understanding, at the winter meetings, they instituted a classic era ballot, which gives guys a second chance to making it into the Hall of Fame. And we've seen it recently where guys didn't reach the percentage with the baseball writers of their era of being on the ballot. So it gives a second chance to guys with a different group of writers. I don't know how much time it has to span from the time you were on the first time on the ballot, but it gives you a second chance to get in the Hall of Fame. We saw Harold Baines get elected. Jim Leyland got elected through that, I believe. But it is always, it occurs during the winter meetings in December. And it's just another opportunity for these guys to get on the ballot. And there's a really good group this year. If you said Dave Parker, and I even mentioned on the last episode when we recapped our time up in Newcastle, Dick Allen is on it. And he's a guy I've advocated for a long time because he's from my area, but he has similar stats to Dave Parker as well. So, Yeah, well, I'm really pulling for the Cobra, man. He's a fan favorite. We've met a lot of old Pirate fans that are big Dave Parker fans. They became Pirate fans because of Dave Parker. He was a fan favorite back in the 70s. So I will be itching to see what the outcome of that vote. And I don't know how that works exactly. We'll have to do a little bit of research on that, who votes on it, and how that and the percentage that's needed, and blah blah blah. But I know baseline is just a second chance.
I agree. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I think you also have to consider what he meant to that team at the time, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I mean, obviously you have guys like Willie Stargell, Dave Parker on that team, and maybe he's overlooked a little bit by that. Maybe he's given the, you know, a bad rap because how things wrapped up in Pittsburgh in those late 70s, early 80s with the drug trials.
Mm.
But there's been a lot worse, man.
A lot worse. And you can't write the story of the 70 Pirates without Dave Parker.
Yes.
And those are some of the best teams in Major League history. So you just can't. He's just such an important figure in this organization and in the league in that era.
100%. Let's do a new segment, Scott.
Let's do it.
This
man.
one's going to be brief, but we're going to do this throughout the offseason, especially as the stove gets hot, as free agency gets going. We're going to keep you updated what's happening around the NL Central. This segment is called Around the Central. We will break down any and all moves, whether it's a waiver move, a trade, free agency signing, anything amongst the Pirates, the Cubs, the Reds, the Cardinals, and did I say the Cubs?
Cubs, Cardinals, Brewers, Reds.
All right.
So there we go.
There we go. Yeah. I should have wrote that down before because I'm like, I forget what I say something and then I'll go on a sentence and I'm like, where did I start this at?
Do that every day.
Yeah. That being said, let's see what's happening around the Central. Not much. Possibly the worst thing that could have happened for the Pirates, though, is a player leaving the Central to go to the Los Angeles Angels, and that's Kyle Hendricks. So long, Mr. Hendricks, you will be missed.
Forever missed.
Greatly.
He did have an early career like Greg Maddux look, but that faded very quickly. So
the smart guy. He went to an Ivy League, didn't he?
He went to Dartmouth.
Yeah, so that only gets you so far, buddy. Hopefully, maybe you find your way back one day, but good luck in Los Angeles. Jimmy Hergert, a right-handed pitcher from the Cubs, was claimed off waivers by the Rockies. And then Brandon Liebrand, left-handed pitcher, had a 9.95 ERA for Cincinnati, was signed to a minor league contract by the Yankees.
I also want to mention the Reds had a couple moves too. They signed Alex Jackson to a minor league contract. He was a former top 5 pick by the Mariners. He's a catcher out of high school. And then they also re-signed Brent Suter, a left-handed relief arm. So those are two guys too that two guys that signed this week once free agency open. And then Drew Smiley for the Cubs elected free agency. So that's an arm we may or may not see next year in the Central.
Nothing else, right?
Nothing else that I know of. Those were the big moves so far. It's early yet. The non-tender deadline's coming up. A lot of moves usually occur after that because teams need to decide whether they're going to tender a contract to a player or not prior to arbitration. So a lot of deadlines coming up, a lot of moves coming for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Especially once those winter meetings hit, things get rolling. The stove gets very
Don't
hot.
panic if you're a Pirates fan that Ben hasn't done anything yet, because the biggest move has been Kyle Hendricks. Jorge Soler, maybe.
Trey Cabbage.
Oh, Tristan Gray and Trey Gabbage. That's right. Shout out Trey Cabbage's dad.
Followed us. Hopefully it stays that way. Let's get into some pitching grades, Scott. This one I'm really looking forward to because this is the one strong point that we were able to consistently talk about all throughout the season.
For sure.
No matter how bad the offense got, the pitching was consistent. Where going into the year, we thought maybe the exact opposite, right? We thought there was a lot of power potential in this lineup, a lot of guys that could produce runs, and then the pitching staff going into the year, we thought it was going to be Bailey Falter, Marco Gonzalez, Martin Perez, Mitch Keller, and then Luis Ortiz. right? And then Luis Ortiz was fighting for a job as well. Out comes Jared Jones out of nowhere, right? Makes the opening day roster. Paul Skeens obviously gets the call up. Bailey Falter has an unbelievable season for Bailey Falter standards. And then Luis Ortiz was also a baller. Started in that long man spot. You heard Noah on our show say, like, hey, maybe this is where he needs to be, where he empties the tank in a short amount of innings. And he was right. And then to be able to make that transition back to the starting rotation and then succeed is outstanding. And we'll get into a little bit more detail with him later because I want to break down why I think he's been so successful. But Scott, do you mind if I get us kicked off here with the most obvious A+ that we have probably ever given out and that we will probably continue to give out is Paul Skeens. I don't really need to go into much detail here. It's an A+. 11-3, 1.96 ERA, 133 innings pitched, only 10 home runs allowed, Scott. 31 runs totaled, 170 Ks. Here's just some odd stats and record-breaking numbers. Most Ks for a Pirates rookie in 125 years. Most games with at least 7 strikeouts through 10 starts. Second lowest ERA by any other pitcher through their first 20 starts. Tied the record for most Ks by a rookie, which stood until 1900. He was the all-star game starter, 99th percentile in fastball run value and pitching run value, 95th percentile in K rate, 98th percentile in expected ERA, 95th percentile in expected batting average, 0.95 whip. He did not look like a rookie.
No.
He was completely dominant.
We were all witnesses to one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time. And I mean that. Like we all witnessed this. I said it before when we went down to the breakout game in spring training. We were really close up. I was like, this is the best pitcher I've seen live in my life. And it felt like crazy to say that out loud, but I meant it. And he kind of he backed it up. As soon as he got to Pittsburgh in the first week of May, man, it was lights out and it was special. It was very, very special. This is a guy that you take advantage of having on your roster for the first 6 years, right? So I don't know. Like we've witnessed Garrett Cole. We witnessed some other special arms here in Pittsburgh, but he is by far the best one that I've seen in my lifetime. And it's hard not to go with an A+ for my grade. I don't see any other option.
If there was a higher grade, I would give it.
Yeah.
Right.
11 out of 10.
Here's the difference between Paul Skeens and Garrett Cole. Paul Skeens went out there and there was no question about his ability. You let it ride, right? You let him do his thing. Garrett Cole was held back significantly in the Pirates system because he was turned into a ground ball pitcher. He was not told to use the top of the zone, use that, fastball up. They simply just didn't let him out of his cage, right, and become his true self. And now you've seen Garrett Cole become a Cy Young. You've seen him lead a team to the World Series, have 2 very good World Series starts. And he's pitched in, 2 World Series already. So Paul Skeens doesn't need any of that. And luckily, we don't have anyone telling him, hey, like this is like what you need to go to like the next step. And he's going to figure that out himself, right? That's just what guys of this talent, of that magnitude, do in order to get better. Here's another thing I want to stress. We constantly talk about a window, right? And like how the Pirates need to meet a window and what they need to do. And like, here's the amount of years that they need to add X amount of players and spend whatever money that they're going to spend. That window is right now. And as long as you have Paul Skeens on your team, you need to try and win, because you might never in the history of your franchise get another player of this caliber.
100%. 100%.
You cannot waste a single Paul Skeens start. He gave up 31 runs the entire year, Scott. 31 runs the entire year. He made good hitters look foolish. He was able to go into the 7th inning, no problem when they let him do it. He threw multiple no-hit outings before being pulled in Chicago and in Milwaukee. I believe. Yeah. Right. It's special. it's something where you drop everything that you're doing to watch.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. It was really special. He and the beard too. We've seen this offseason. I
Let's
think
talk about the
more's
beard.
coming. Let's talk about the beard, man. It's Josh Allen-esque. We talked about this earlier. We were watching the Steeler game. I think he needs to keep it. I like it. He looks like a bad dude. And I don't know, man. I'm already excited. I want to see Paul Skeens back on the mound already.
Yeah, I'm missing some Pirates baseball. The football doesn't fill the void.
No,
It really doesn't. As much as I love watching the Steelers, it's just something about baseball, man. Let's move on because we can do a whole podcast on this. Who do you got next?
All right, let's go with Jared Jones. The other rookie, he made the rotation out of camp. A smaller guy, but competitive. He has that very bulldog mentality on the mound. He went 6-8 this year with a 4.14 ERA in 122 innings pitched, 132 Ks. Electric stuff for how small of a guy he is. I think the biggest concern with him is the command, and that was the concern coming into the season. But he really proved us wrong, especially at the first half of the season.
Yeah.
He proved us wrong, man. He really improved the command, the heavy four seam slider usage. It was just nasty stuff. I think outside of that, my biggest worry is the durability, because the big mark, and I don't usually like to put like these. What do I want to say? Like, I don't like to put these definitions on guys. Like smaller guys don't have durability. I think there are anomalies, right? I think there are guys that are able to make it through 162, and just because you're under 6 feet doesn't mean you fall into that category. But we haven't seen it from him in his career. We just haven't, and they were cautious with him this year, which I think was smart, although I'm sure he didn't like it, just because they weren't competing after the second half, and they quickly got out of the competitive window there. So I'm expecting him to go full season next year. Hopefully he's healthy. I think the durability, and then also the fly balls. Like, he's a Garrett Cole. He kind of reminds me of Garrett Cole in the way that he gives up home runs. That's part of his game. But I love the mentality that he has on the mound. I think it fits this city perfectly. Him and Skeens are a perfect 1-2 punch. And if I were to give him a grade right now, I would say B+, because I think it was a very impressive rookie season, despite some of the road bumps at the very end. But I think he showed us what he's capable of for most of the year.
Yeah, you're right on the money with that, man. I had a B+ as well. Here's Garrett Cole, right? At the beginning of his career was very like, hey, outside of his time with the Pirates, like, I'm going to blow it by you. Only a couple pitches I'm going to use. And now Garrett Cole has a 5-6 pitch arsenal that he's continued to use a lot more, right? That's what I need to see Jared Jones do in order to take that next step. This year, it was pretty much four-seam slider, right? He was able to find that curveball and that changeup here and there, but for the most part, it was filling up the zone with heat. And that makes you susceptible to the long ball, right? Yeah. You might get a lot of strikeouts, or you might get, 2 or 3 home runs a game. Luckily, he kept it to a lot of solo home runs this year, but commanding the zone is a big one. He proved that he could do that, although, like you said, he lost it a little bit as the year went on. I think a lot of that had to do with the time on the IL as well. Great extension for a small guy. If you look on Savant, his 2 top numbers are his fastball velo and his extension, which makes the ball jump on you a lot quicker than it normally would, especially for a guy that's under 6 foot. But really, with me, man, I think it's developing that third pitch and having a successful third pitch that you can go to get ground balls for a put away, instead of relying on that fastball slider. Because guess what? If one of those isn't working, that's when you saw him really struggle, right? Yeah. And he's just trying to find it instead of having an alternative secondary to go to, and then working on tunneling a little bit more. A lot of his release angles are a little bit different with the fastball slider, even with the change in the curve when he throws it. Major league pitchers pick up on this, right? They could tell whether you're coming arm side, over the top, and what type of pitch that you're throwing with that. We have that data now, right? So if he's able to find a consistent arm slot and then be able to snap off that slider or that 99-mile-per-hour fastball along with like a curveball or a changeup, or maybe he develops a split, who knows? But B+ is a fair grade. Without Jared Jones, the Pirates are not a better team. They are a better team this year, but they're not. We're not talking as good as they could have been, right? Like, because he added that potential to make us think like, hey, this team probably is a lot better than we thought they were a lot better than they were at the moment. But because of that talent, like, we were persuaded that like, hey, they could do it because these guys have the ability to do so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm envisioning him right now in our future rotation. When I say future rotation, I'm saying next year in October, as the number 3 guy. Like, and I think that's a perfect spot for him, especially if Bubba Chandler makes it up next year. And I think Bubba Chandler's got a very, very high ceiling. I'm really excited for the growth that we're going to see from him in spring. And like you said, the extension's big for him. Guy being under 6 feet, using his whole body. That's how he generates all the velocity from the ground up. So, Jared Jones, man, great season. And we're already looking forward to next year.
Here's one where I struggled with a grade.
Okay, let's hear it.
Mitch Keller. I love Mitch Keller. I think Mitch Keller is a great 3 to 4 guy in your rotation. He's going to eat innings. We literally called him the AJ Burnett of this rotation, right? Like a guy that you could rely on. It's going to go out there and give you 5 to 6 innings. Hell, I think he went like 31 consecutive starts of 5 or more innings pitched. The issue with Mitch has been consistently, especially down the stretch. And as this team starts to compete, which you expect them to do, you need a guy like that you could rely on going into September and October. He finished the year 11-12, 4.25 ERA, 178 innings pitched. That's great. 166 Ks, 1.3 WHIP. Here's where the issue comes in, Scott. I'm going to read off his month-by-month ERA. In May, 1.30 ERA. June, 2.35 ERA. July, 3.60 ERA. August, 6.75 ERA. And then September and October, he had a 6.66 ERA. So the first half, he had a 3.46 ERA. And then the second half, he had a 5.65 ERA. His K rate was lower per 9 than last year. The walk rate went up. He had a lower ground ball rate. That being said, he's a B+ for me.
Yeah.
Because of the value he could provide in that 3 to 4 spot moving forward, if that's where he's going to be. I know you gave him like a massive contract, and like for Pirates terms, it's a very high number, but it's not. No. Especially for starting pitching in this league for a guy that's going to eat innings. Guys like that have long careers.
Yep.
Right. But you got to get outs. You can't have blowups, and you have to be able to maintain the hot streak in June, July, all the way through October and on. And he's done that constantly. So like, what's the issue here, Scott?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think there is a discussion to be had about his repertoire and the fastballs that he utilizes, because he doesn't really have bat missing qualities on his fastball. And we had a whole episode talking early on in the season about how his cutter is just not missing bats. It's actually doing the opposite. It's catching a lot of bats. Yeah. And so I think that's something that needs to be worked on in the offseason and throughout spring training. But listen, I'm going to give him a B+ too, because I think every team needs a guy like this, especially when you have 2 young studs on your team where you're trying to watch their innings in their rookie seasons. You need a guy that's going to eat innings. Like Mitch Keller gives me like the rubber arm feel. Like he's going to go 180 plus innings every year, and he's going to pitch like above league average. Like this is an above league average stat line right here, right? I think our future like perfect vision for this rotation, he's the number 5 guy, which is ridiculous to think about. So I think he brings a lot of stability and a lot of value to this rotation as a guy. One, we hear a lot of stories how he has a lot of influence on the younger pitchers. Like he's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great mentor. He's been through a lot. Like he
One of the few
literally
veterans on that staff.
one of the few veterans, and he's been through a lot, man. Like if we remember, like it was really low for Mitch Keller at one point, like really, really low. So to have someone like that who has like grinded through the tough times and has become a league that like a valuable pitcher in this league, I think that there's that can't be quantified here, and I'm gonna go B plus because I think he is a constant in this rotation going forward.
100% agreed. A lot of people don't like Mitch Keller.
I know, it's crazy to me, man.
To
I don't
that
get
I
it.
say you're wrong.
Yeah, I don't get that.
You're wrong. I know you want to see like a guy go out there and just shove constantly, but there's a lot of value in what he provides. And as long as he can stay consistent, Mitch Keller is a guy. He is a guy in this league, and he will be for a long time. So to say Mitch Keller could be a great 5 in our rotation is absurd.
Yeah, absurd.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
one of the best rotations in the league.
yeah. Speaking like realistically, like hopefully he's like a 4 guy next year if Bubba really emerges as what we think he's going to be. But it's one problem that we can take off the table in a huge list of problems that the Pirates have. It's just one thing that we can tuck aside and say, this is taken care of. We have a guy that can go out every single day and give us a solid 5 to 6 innings. It's just a matter of providing run support.
Yep. Absolutely.
Scott, who do we got next?
Let's go Bailey Falter. No nice guy, Bailey Falter. Had a solid season, 4.43 ERA in 28 games. He had about 142 innings pitched, 97 Ks. He had one of the best 4 seams in baseball. And I'll let you touch on that in a little bit because I know we had a conversation with Jordan Comadina and he outlined some adjustments that were made with Bailey Falter prior to the season. When we went down to spring, we were like, there's no way this guy makes the roster. But he ended up being a valuable piece of this rotation. And I could see him, if he's not a trade ship, being a valuable piece, the back end, or as a long man in the rotation going forward. I'm going to go with a B, just a solid B for Bailey Falter, because one, he greatly exceeded my expectations and he showed up when we needed him. Like he showed up in big moments and, you know, as a 5 on this team this year, in this young rotation, very, very solid season.
For those of you that are new to Bucco Bantr, that had just started listening to the show recently, or hell, even if you started listening during the season, you're like, every time these guys talk about Bailey Falter, they call him a nice guy. Let's catch you up, okay? Just real quick. No, we do not have a personal relationship with Bailey Falter, okay? We do not know him at all outside of the people and our friends that are in the clubhouse every day. Bailey Falter was so bad in spring training, so bad that we were screaming at the top of our lungs to DFA him, that there was absolutely no way that he could be a part of this rotation. An unserious baseball team would have Bailey Falter. We were devastated when he made the roster. And boy, were we wrong. But throughout that whole time, as we criticized him, as we said he was the perfect DFA candidate, I think we said he needed it tattooed on his forehead at one point. Like, we're like, I bet he's a nice guy. Like, at least he's got that going for him. And not only is he a nice guy now, he is somebody that you could rely on and a solid major league pitcher. And a left-handed arm that they so desperately needed as the season went on, right? You lost Martin Perez. You lost Marco Gonzalez. You needed a guy from the left side that was going to give you a different look and eat up innings. And that's exactly what he did. The adjustments that he made with Comadina, unbelievable. You talk about the adjustments with like Nicky G, right? And how hard that was for him and how he worked on it and how he had a bounce back year. The same thing applies for Bailey Falter. It's just as impressive, if not more, with how he was able to make the ever slow slight adjustments. Put it this way. Nick Gonzalez, when we interviewed him, he mentioned like when you're trying to find a feel for it, if somebody says like, hey, we need you to stand a little bit more upright, you might like move an inch and it seems like you moved 5 feet. just because of being comfortable in the box and how your body moves and how you're used to doing something. Bailey Falter was able to crouch down 3 inches and then add 2 to 3 miles per hour on his four seam with ride and just
Yeah.
work it at the top of the zone and get whiffs, right? There was multiple games where he had 10 plus whiffs on a fastball. So that's so promising in a organization where development is an issue and having guys succeed in a Pirates uniform is far and few between. Having him contribute this year was such a bonus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a huge difference maker, especially early on in the season, man. And I see him having a role on this team, whether it's at the back end of the rotation, like I said, or as a long man going forward. But um, he was definitely a positive story for this team this season. Um, like it was fun. I just laugh every time I think about our reactions to him in spring training because we were literally standing on top of the bullpen in Bradenton saying like, "There's no way this guy makes the team."
Yeah,
So
it was rough. Good for Bailey Falter. Let's go to the last one. And talking about adjustments, man, this might be my favorite one. Luis Ortiz. I'll come right
yeah,
out with it. I gave him a B plus. And by the way, Bailey Falter, I agree. I'd say B. He was edging like a B plus for me, but B plus for Luis Ortiz. The story here is incredible because, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, started as the long man, exceeded expectations in that role, right? And then was forced to come to the rotation with all the injuries, and he didn't look back. He took advantage of an opportunity, and he was able to see what was hurting him in years past with the control issues, with the velocity issues, and harness that into developing another pitch where he could hit you with 3 fastballs that all have different looks. He had slider, four seam, sinker, cutter. He added that cutter this year, and it's kind of like a Lance Lynn type
yeah.
deal, right?
So many
It
different
looks like you're
fastballs.
getting the same pitch and it's moving inside, outside, up or down, but it's all coming from the same angle. And that's why he was able to succeed. When
Yeah,
Luis Ortiz first came, he was throwing 100 miles per hour when he came to this
yeah.
team. He had a big arm. Now he's sitting 94, but it's better. It works for him. He's able to harness that, and he's not just a thrower anymore. He's a pitcher.
Yeah, my first look at Luis Ortiz, he gave me a lot of like Luis Severino, Luis Castillo, like two pitch guy vibes, like that could succeed as a starter if those two pitches were very successful or very or plus pitches. But I what I think I take away from this here his season is the versatility of Luis Ortiz, right? He was able to come into the season. We thought at least I thought before the season that he was going to be our number 5. He's in the rotation in a good spring. There's no way they're putting him in the bullpen. We had Noah on very first time, and he was just like, "Hey, maybe less is more. Maybe let him like eat in the bullpen." And that plan actually really worked for him. And then he came into the rotation and did really well. The transition worked out. And I just think him having that versatility and that ability to do both is huge for this club going forward because you need so many arms throughout the season. I think the average team needs 10 to 12 arms to start throughout the season, different arms, because guys get hurt, guys need rest, etc. So, and then you have young arms like Skeens and Jones this year. So I'm going to give him a B plus too. I'm going to give him a B plus because this was a very positive year this year. And I see him as a front runner for that last rotation spot going into next year.
Yeah, I was going to say he's earned that spot. You
Yeah.
have Oviedo coming back, who we haven't mentioned. So,
But you'd think they'd
Oviedo.
flow him into that.
Right. And just, I think quite simply, he's earned it.
For sure.
Barring anything else, like he's earned it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just also want to touch on one thing I forgot to was the tunneling aspect of the 3 different fastballs, the sinker, the cutter, the four seam, to have those different looks. Like they look like the same pitch coming in and then, they're going in different directions. Like that's huge. That was a big part of his success this year. And he's a guy that seems to work hard. He really benefited from the mentorship of Aroldis Chapman. And I think it's only going to make him better in the next years to come.
Yeah, I'm excited for Luis Ortiz, man. That wraps up the starting pitchers. I know Marco Gonzalez started with the team. That was a terrible transaction for the Pirates. Like, quite simply, I
It
just
looked
like
all
it
right
didn't.
at first, but then it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the couple outings that he did have, I mean, the best ability is availability, right?
Sure.
And he just didn't provide that. And then Martin Perez had his ups and downs until he was traded. Let's go to catchers. And you want me to start here, Scott?
Go for it.
I can get us kicked off with Joey Bart, who I gave an A minus to, simply because of the production that he was able to provide and how he was able to emerge as like a true major league ball player this year after just being put in a possible position in San Francisco, right? And like,
Mhm.
you were following Buster Posey. Talk about being put into like expectations like are at, like skyscraper high, and you're never going to be able to meet those. And I'm sure he struggled early on because of that, but a change of scenery did him very well. He slashed 265, 337, 462 with an OPS of 799, career high 13 home runs, 45 RBIs. He was a positive 1.3 WAR player, 121 WRC plus. When he's putting the ball in play, Scott, 321 batting average.
Yeah.
BABIP was through the roof.
I think you pretty much summed it up perfectly. So I don't really have much to add there. Just the fact that he went from a situation where he had a ton of expectations, succeeding Buster Posey, to a situation where he had no expectations. And it really, really helped him. He showed his true ability. And I think given the production that we've had at catcher over the last couple of years, I'm going to give him an A, just a flat A, because a 121 WRC plus, was that like top 2-3 on the team? Like, that had to be up there. It had to be. And then 1.3 WAR. There's offensive and defensive production from the catcher position that he added to this team was huge. It was something that we haven't seen since, for a couple of years. So Joey Bart in my opinion, earned himself the title as catcher 1 going forward. We'll see what they decide to do with Endy Rodriguez, whether they try to play him at first or DH him or move him and Bart back and forth to DH and catcher. But I think they have encouraging situation behind the plate going forward. That's something that I'm looking forward to in 2025.
Yeah, he adds power to a lineup
Yeah.
where it desperately needs it, and you didn't have to go out and spend $1 million on it. So, I mean,
And then
it was
also
a win-win trade.
Look at the average offensive stats for a catcher. He's well above that. So,
Sure.
Another reason why I'm just giving him an A, because our offense was low this year, and he provided offense at a position that we haven't seen in some time. So,
Absolutely.
all right, let's go on to Yasmani Grandal next. He was our veteran sign this year, especially with Endy Rodriguez going down. I don't think this would have been a sign if Endy was healthy, obviously. He went 228, 304, 400, 704 with 9 homers. I'm going to go C minus, and simply because he was the guy for Skeens.
Yeah.
He was our aces guy. And he was probably around league average for catcher offensive production, honestly. Like that, maybe slightly below if anything, but he did have spurts where he would go on hot streaks. It was very underwhelming. His defense behind the plate, I don't understand why he had this reputation coming into the season as like this pitcher whisperer, if you will, because I wasn't very impressed with him defensively. I remember the very first day that O'Neill Cruz played center field, and he dropped that, what I thought was a good throw from O'Neill, trying to gun a runner at the plate. So I'm not the biggest Grandal fan, but he didn't give us like a sub Mendoza line batting, line. So I'm just going to C minus.
I had D plus C minus, and
Okay.
I think I'll go C minus just because, like you said, he was Skeen's guy, which adds value. He was 86th percentile in pitch frame, but he was first percentile in pop time. You could pretty much run all day.
Yeah, exactly.
If he was behind the plate. Luckily, Skeens is excellent at holding runners, but man, he was very confusing, right? Because as you mentioned, pretty average numbers, like typical for a catcher. The first half of the season, his batting average was 178. The second half, 302. Like he
Yeah.
finished really strong, man. Like August, he hit 311, and then September, October, he hit 310.
This is a former MVP candidate back in his prime. 95 WRC plus is, I'll take that every day from a catcher.
He had a 1.44 WAR.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he didn't have a horrible season. I know people want to clown him, and we've had some negative talk about him on Pirates Twitter, but not a horrible season. I just like wasn't overly impressed for the reason he was signed, being that veteran guy that was supposed to come in.
I think if you knew Yasmani Grandal, like he did exactly what you would expect him to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Let's talk about one where maybe you didn't think that going into the year. Maybe one where you thought was going to hit 20 to 30 home runs. Maybe one where one of us said his jersey might be hung in the rafters one day. Okay. One that we talked about being like this blue collar, like true to Pittsburgh, like hard
Watches
worker.
The Bachelor.
Yeah, watches The Bachelor. Forgot about Bachelor banter, man. We might have to bring that back.
I'm definitely bringing that back in the spring.
Yeah, he epitomized like what Pittsburgh is in Hank Davis. And you got to feel for the guy. Like, just we talk about adjustments with Nikki G, Bailey Falter, Luis Ortiz. Here's one where no adjustment was made whatsoever. If you look at his spray chart from 2023, it's like you could draw a line right through the middle, and every single hit is to the left side. There's 0 to the right side. You could do the exact same thing this year. You draw a line from home plate all the way to center field. There's nothing on the right side of the field. I'd be surprised if he fouled off more than 5 balls to the right side of the field. Like, it's that bad. His slash line when he was at the big league level, 144, 242, 212 with a 454 OPS. It doesn't get worse than that, man. He had a negative 0.7 WAR, 30 WRC plus, 1 home run. Right. One home run, just 0. I mean, my main note here is 0 adjustments. You go into spring training and have the spring that he did. And listen, I know like guys in spring training are working on specific pitches and it's a little bit easier to pick up on, and the weather contributes a lot, but he had that power going for him. Like, you'd think like, hey, he's not going to miss on fastballs. It's like at the very least, he's going to crush fastballs. And then he went from a 234 batting average on fastballs to 123. So fastballs down the middle was his worst pitch.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to survive in the big leagues with that. And like you said, one thing I learned for sure is taking these spring stats as a grain of salt, because he definitely earned a spot with how he played in the spring, but it didn't translate. And like you said, he made 0 adjustments. And I'm really concerned about Henry going forward. I'm not going to lie. With these stats, with how much he tried to pull the ball, he's just not going to survive at the big league level. And there's got to be some serious adjustments made this offseason.
I gave him an F minus.
I gave him an H.
An H.
Just kidding. I'll give him an F.
Yeah, F. I mean, like, man, like I hate to be like that harsh, right? Like, I know these are human beings, and like you go through shit all the time, right? Like, it's hard. It's a difficult game to play and to succeed, especially when you're the 1-1. You're that guy. You're expected to perform and contribute. I'm not saying it's over for Henry Davis, but a significant amount needs to change for him to be a successful Major League Baseball player.
I do want to add too, like, I don't think the Pirates have done him favors.
Sure. No, not at all.
Especially with the first year, like him playing right field, and like they even admitted so. Like, it's just been a really weird handling of his development. But at the same time, like, he hasn't done himself favors either. So I don't know, man. It's a big, big year for Henry Davis. Big, big year. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he is, they try to at least deal him in some capacity, like, and throw him into a package. Because you've got Endy and Joey Bart going forward. Like, what do you do with Henry Davis?
You'd hope he'd be a DH, but like, he can't hit. So,
but you need him to hit. Exactly.
Right.
So
I'll say this. The catching wasn't bad. the catching wasn't terrible behind the plate. Like I thought he went into the season well prepared in that aspect of things, but man, like you talk about catchers having like just above the Mendoza line numbers, like this is where you draw the line. And you just say,
Yeah.
hey, like he's unplayable and he needs to just keep getting reps at AAA. But when you're consistently killing it at AAA and then just not making that jump to the big league level, then it's like, all right, what else are we looking at here? Is this a mental thing or is this just something where the talent doesn't line up? If you trade him, you're trading him at the lowest possible value you could possibly trade him at. Like maybe like you're getting like an international prospect or you're getting like a bullpen arm here or there
You
instead of
have to
like
throw him in the
moving him.
package.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be very hard for Henry Davis. But hey, we got a whole offseason to dream on.
Yep.
And hopefully he's able to do that, man. It's not impossible. Obviously, to be the 1-1, like you have to have something there. So hoping Henry has a good offseason. That wraps it up, Scott.
Yep.
I think overall that group of pitchers and catchers was one of the positives
For sure. I would
going
agree
into
with
the
that.
year. Yeah, like I mean, the pitchers absolutely. We'll get into the bullpen on another episode. Catching Joey Bart definitely helped that. And then, Jason DeLay was there for a cup of coffee. I like DeLay, but just didn't really get an opportunity.
Grant Coke.
Grant Koch was there for what, 2 games, a couple
Yeah.
games. He caught Skeens.
Got every at bat.
Yeah, he was not good. And I think that's it, right? I don't remember anyone else getting
No, there
behind the
wasn't
dish
anyone
this
else.
year.
I think
So,
you're right.
all right, man. Let's go to the Arizona Fall League. Why don't you get us kicked off with Sunday?
Yeah, so we got a lot of games to cover, especially since we were doing a live episode this week. So let's start with Sunday first. The Scottsdale Scorpions, I'm saying we now, lost to the Glendale Desert Dogs 5-3. Giovanni Plancher went 1 for 3 with a run. He's batting 360. Sammy Sione went 1 for 3 with an RBI and a K. He's still over 400 at 404. And our guy Christian Curtis went 1 inning, 1 hit, 3 Ks. He's lowered his ERA to 6.35. He had that one bad outing. On to Monday, Adam.
Scottsdale versus the Peoria Javelinas, 3-2 L. Sammy Siani 1 for 4, RBI, 2 Ks, and a stolen base. Still hitting 396, man. Third stolen base of the fall. I believe he was a false star.
He was,
They
and we'll
named him
get
a
into
false
that
star.
at the end.
So
yeah,
good for him. Let's go to Tuesday.
6-0 win for the Scottsdale Scorpions over the Glendale Desert Dogs. Siani pinched run. He scored a run. Kervin Pichardo went 1 for 2 with a run and RBI. His first stolen base and a walk. He's at 293. Valentin Linares earned the W in this game. 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, 1 K. He's got a 1 ERA. And Brendan Benoit went 1 inning, 1 walk, 1 K. On to Wednesday.
Scottsdale 8-1 W versus the Javelinas. Again, Siani 2 for 3, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, and a home run. His third in the fall with a walk and a strikeout. Average back up to 407. Kervin Pichardo 0 for 3, 2 runs, and a stolen base with 2 strikeouts. And then Derek Diamond, 1 inning pitch, 1 K. He's got a 2.45 ERA. Another good fall for a Pirates prospect.
Thursday, Scottsdale won 6-1 versus the Mesa Solar Sox. Sammy Sione went 2 for 5 with a run, a stolen base, his fourth. He's at 406. Kervin Pichardo went 1 for 3 with 1 run, 2 RBIs, a walk, and a K. He's at 277. Giovanni Plancher went 1 for 4. He's at 345. Our guy, Christian Curtis, earns a hold. He went 3 innings, 1 hit, 3 Ks. And Eddie Yeen went 1 inning and 2 Ks. He's a 7.04 ERA. And lastly, on to Saturday, Adam.
The Fall Stars. AL, they won 6-3 versus the NL. So no surprise there. I guess it's kind of just been like the name of the game with these AL guys succeeding. Plancher 0 for 1. Sammy Siani started in left field 2 for 5 with a run and a K. Derek Diamond started 1 inning pitch, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, and that wraps it up with the AFL.
Pretty cool that Derek Diamond started for the NL. So
yeah, he had a hell of a fall, man. Like that's really good. We talk about like first round picks like Siani contributing. Awesome.
He'll definitely be in Altoona next year. So as a college arm, I'm excited to see that. And Sammy Siani's looked really good. I'm assuming he'll be in Indianapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that wraps up this week. We're just under an hour be kind to somebody. Say something nice to a friend, a family member, a loved one. We're having a lot of fun with this, and we're going to continue to have a lot of fun with this moving forward. A lot of big things on the horizon for Bucco Banter. But while you're listening to these episodes, you're probably wearing clothes. I would hope so. If you don't want to wear clothes while you listen to us, that's fine. Just don't tell us. But we both have our Bucco Banter champion hoodies on. Scott, they're so comfortable.
Very comfortable, man. I haven't taken this off in 2 days.
Yeah. 2 days. I mean, this has been like a week. Guess what? They don't smell that bad when you wear them multiple days in a row. I washed mine finally. Didn't shrink at all. Fits true to size. It's comfortable. You can wear it. It keeps you warm. Or if you just like a nice, cool fall day, you want to walk around with some shorts and a hoodie on, this is the perfect gift. Talk about holiday season. I went to the mall, not a parking spot in sight. All those people could have just stayed home and went to buccobanter.com. Click to purchase, get sent out to you in like a week, and then boom, everybody's happy.
My Christmas buying is going to be very easy this year. I'm going to one website only. So
absolutely. Well, hey, if you don't already, go to YouTube. We're really trying to build that channel. Hit that subscribe button, like the episode, leave a comment. If you just listen, we love you too. 5-star review, please. It means so much. Download the episode. Maybe we'll do another mailbag, Scott. So if you want anything to be discussed moving forward, shoot us a message on X, on Instagram, OnlyFans, YouTube, wherever you could find us. We're there. We're here to please the people in all different types of ways. So just as always, we appreciate the support and raise it.
Raise it.
Rockin' 101, she compliment my taste. Whiskey in my lemonade, cause I like the way it tastes. Best seats at the Pirates game, they let me run the base. Yeah, my time is like my money, cause I can't afford to waste. Wifey is a lawyer, take my date to my dates, or the steak by the plates. And